Well, a good Sunday afternoon today, and hope that you're doing well. And glad you could join me now as we study from the Gospel of Matthew. If you want to open up with me today to the Gospel of Matthew, and we're going to be continuing in chapter 25, where we left off last time, in Matthew 24. Remembering that Jesus there had begun to predict the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and all that was coming, and that great day of the Lord that was going to be coming, and the events that were going to take place. And then here, as we continue in chapter 25, Jesus is giving a series of parables about being ready. And so last time we looked at the first parable given in chapter 25, the parable of the wise and foolish virgins, how 5 virgins were ready for the bridegroom and the other 5 were not ready and prepared and got left out. And so Jesus was stressing being ready there. Well, he wants to give another parable like that today as we look at beginning in verse 14. Matthew 25, verse 14. And he's going to give what we know as the parable of the talents. Now, the talents here are not talents like I can juggle, I can sing, I can whatever. It has to do with, the talents were a form of money. And we're going to talk about that or see what this parable is about. So let's begin in verse 14, Matthew 25, where Jesus says again that the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. So Jesus sets this up with the parable of a man who's going to be going away for a while. So he's assigning his servants to be over certain goods so that they'll take care of everything while he is gone, and then he'll come back and, hopefully everything will still be in order, and not even just in order, but will just continue to progress even better. So verse 15, to one of his servants he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his own ability, and immediately he went on a journey. So, the master uses some wisdom here that each servant he knows can handle a certain amount of responsibility, and so he does not give them more, if you will, more than they can handle. So he understands in giving them these responsibilities, they're going to be over, only so much. One was over 5, one was over 2, one was over 1, but they each had a job to do. They each had responsibility, and they each needed to do their work and do their best while the master was gone. So the one, in verse 16, the one who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise, the one who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But what we see in verse 18 is the one who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. So we got the first 2 guys. They, use their means. They use what they were given, and they make a profit. Whereas the last one, we find him just go and hide what he was given. Well, then, verse 19, after a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he comes back after a long time wanting to see, okay, what have you done? How did things go? I need my property, my stuff back, my profit back, so on and so forth. So verse 20, the one who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. And so his Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. So the first 2, they say, okay, here is what you had given me. Here is the extra that was accumulated. And the Lord, the master's response is, well done, good job. And since they did such a good job, they were going to be rewarded by their master. But then, verse 24, the one who had received the 1 talent, came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. So now this 1 talent man, the man who was given the 1 talent, explained his reasoning for hiding the talent, the money he was given. And it was because he was afraid, or as he says, I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. I was afraid. I hid it. So, that then when you come back, here's, you have what's yours. Here it is. Here's what you gave. But the master had a problem with that. Verse 26, but his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant, he called him. You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to, verse 27, so you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own interest. So it's like the master is saying there is something you could have done, even if it was, investing that money with the bankers. I would have had something when I return, but instead you chose to do nothing. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. The outer darkness, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And so this last servant, the 1 talent who chose to do nothing, the master was not pleased, and so he was punished. So what does all this have to do with the kingdom of heaven? I mean, that's the point that Jesus is trying to make with this parable, as he says that the kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like a man, a master who was, going away for a long time, was leaving his servants in charge of the work and the labor and all of that. He comes back, the servants give account of themselves. The ones who actually worked and labored are the ones who were pleasing and were told, well done, good and faithful servant. They were told to enter into the joy of their Lord. They were in his favor. They were blessed with an abundance. But the one who had done nothing was punished. He was considered a wicked and lazy servant. And especially at this time, Jesus, speaking to the Jews, speaking to the Jewish leaders, speaking to his disciples, whoever heard this, to all who heard this, and to us who are reading it today. This is, again, a parable of readiness. That for us today, for them, they had to be ready. For us, we have to be ready. That the Lord is coming back one day. We have this life. We've been given a purpose. We've been given a mission. We've been given a life to live. We have a calling from God. But, what are we doing with it? Are we like the first 2 servants here who are working and laboring and, doing doing the best we can, the best of our abilities to serve God and glorify God and to love God and to love and serve others? In whatever way I can. Again, it may not all be the same. We may have all different abilities, different responsibilities, different, whatever it may be. But we can all do something for the Lord, living for the Lord, glorifying the Lord, being an example, being a help, being a teacher, being being zealous for all that is good in the eyes of God. But if we're like that last servant who just chooses to do nothing, who chooses to just hide our lights, as Jesus said, that we're to be the light of the world, but if we just hide it, if we do nothing, if we hold back, if we're lazy, if we're living in sin, then that's not going to be okay with God. And when God comes back, when Jesus comes back, when we give an account to God of ourselves, If we're not ready, if we're not living for God each day, then we're going to find ourselves in a bad position just like that last servant and be punished. And so what Jesus wants them to know, what he wants us to know is, again, knowing our purpose, knowing our mission, knowing our life, knowing what we're living for each and every day, and living for God. And being ready so that when the Lord comes back, we can hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Well done, because we did our best, whatever that was. We did our best for the Lord each day, knowing this life is temporary. We're only here for so long. We're only given one life. We have one mission, one purpose. God has made it. He has revealed it to us in his word. But are we doing it? Are we ready? Are we prepared to give an account? Are we prepared to give an account of our life? And will we hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant"? That's what I want to hear, and I'm sure that's what you want to hear. So let's strive for that every day, living in the hope of God, pleasing him, thankful for his grace, longing to one day hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of your Lord." Think about that today. Think about it this week. And let's be zealous for the Lord. God bless.